Hi there, my name is Davison, and interview between Casey Neistat and Logan Paul. YouTube always messes up the beginning of broadcasts. Unfortunately, I have no control over that. I am just going to let this go for a few seconds, but trust me, we'll get right into it. So hi there, my name is Davison. I'm a content creator on YouTube. This is my vlogging channel. I also have a main channel called Davison Video, and I have made multiple videos about Logan Paul. Now, how I was introduced to Logan Paul was because I kept hearing chatter about him on Twitter and seeing his videos on the trending page. So I actually did a project, I think it's almost been a year now, where I tried to become Logan Paul for a week. Now, at first, I thought Logan Paul was obnoxious, catering himself mainly towards children. I didn't like his content. But as I went through the week-long project of trying to emulate him, and in a way I was satirizing him, but as the week went on, I realized, wow, he actually has to put forth a lot of effort to create entertaining vlogs. He is catering to a very specific niche, which is children between the ages of, say, 8 and 14. And he's also a killer salesman at repeating the same branding message of go to my shop. And so I kind of developed respect for him after that week-long project. Now, this was all before the Japan suicide forest vlog that basically caused the unraveling of his career and landed him, of course, as the title of this video suggests, in the interview seat with Casey Neistat. Now, I've said before on this channel that I think that what Logan Paul did in the suicide forest was disrespectful, inappropriate, and opportunistic. And I don't think that analysis has escaped him since he has tried to slowly redeem himself from the jerkish ways that he portrayed before. And now in the interview with Casey Neistat, I don't feel necessarily that I saw a man who's terribly apologetic about what happened in the past. He's still ultimately very focused on himself, his own story, and his public image. He doesn't seem like a man who is trying to completely change himself. He seems like a man who's trying to salvage his career and, as he put it in the interview, make a comeback and turn this whole year into not only a documentary, but a redemption story. And he believes somehow that his moment of redemption is going to occur in the boxing match between him and KSI, which I think is a little bit strange of a message. And I don't see how entering a ring and creating a sensationalized boxing event that is violent is in any way going to be the crux or the center of a redemption story. How is promoting a violent sporting event going to redeem your public image or make people think that you're a nicer person, that you're a person who is less, as you put it in the interview multiple times, insensitive? I don't think boxing is a terribly sensitive sport. I do agree that it is a sport. I do agree that, you have to really prepare and know a lot about combat to be a boxer. It's not just a physical game. It's also a mental game. But that's not what his redemption story, in my opinion, should be. It shouldn't be that he's continuing to do flashy, outrageous things. It should be that he does positive things with his fame, positive things that, as Casey Neistat alluded to in the interview, like making, the suicide awareness documentary, interviewing the guy who almost committed suicide by jumping off a bridge, but he survived, stuff like that. Logan Paul still has so much fame that there's just so many productive things that he could be doing with his fame, other than entering a boxing ring with a smack talking reaction vlogger called KSI. I actually think that what the powerful thing he could theoretically be, which I doubt he will do, is actually to make everyone think he's going to fight KSI, but then in the last moment, withdraw from the fight and say, you know what? I'm not about this life. I'm not about just chasing the clicks. I'm not about just chasing the clout. I'm about nonviolence. I'm about creation. I'm about being entertaining without being obnoxious, being entertaining without being insensitive, being entertaining without being scandalous or violent. I'm about an intelligent kind of inspirational fame and inspirational leadership for the youth. And then I think it could be a redemption story. So he backs away from the fight, makes his speech. There is his moment of redemption. Going through with the fight, winning the fight. What is the winning the fight going to do other than prove that he trained for the last year? It's not gonna make people like him more. It's not gonna prove anything other than validating back to his own ego, which is, as I said at the outset of this, I still think Logan Paul is incredibly obsessed with himself, which I can't blame him. I mean, I'm a content creator myself. I'm equally concerned with my continued success. My success is much more modest than his is. But with great power comes great responsibility, one hopes, especially if one is verbalizing that one is seeking redemption and that one wants to pay it back to the community. If you never say that you want to seek redemption, if you want to continue to play the villain, I think KSI is playing that role. I think what's another controversial YouTuber? John Scarce, is he still controversial? I don't even know anymore. Then fine, do that. But then don't lay down the line of bullshit that you want everyone to like you and that you want to serve everyone if you're still just ultimately serving yourself. Just stop apologizing, keep going, keep making your bullshit, keep igniting controversies, and you'll still be successful. But if you truly want to be a changed man, you have to step away from the things that are toxic. And I think things that are toxic in entertainment are toxic narratives. So the narratives of excessive violence, excessive controversy, excessive implication of other people without their consent, so doing pranks that harm other people, and deliberately misleading and miseducating a very young, impressionable audience. Because Logan Paul's audience isn't my audience. My audience is predominantly men between the ages of 25 and 45, especially on my main channel. So I don't have to hold myself to the standard on my main channel of pleasing children or knowing that I'm shaping the minds and the behaviors of a very young audience. He has that responsibility because only that young audience is going to really get into the type of persona up to present that he's portrayed. He's a choice though. Like I said before, he can choose to be different. He can choose to broaden his appeal and raise the age of his demographic. But I highly doubt he's going to do that. So that's why a lot of people are saying that they don't believe every single word that came out of Logan Paul's mouth during the interview with Casey Neistat. And Neistat even voiced that himself at the beginning of the interview, that he didn't know how sincere Logan Paul was being about saying that he wants to be a changed man, that he wants this to be a redemption story, and that he deserves a second chance. Now, do I believe that everyone deserves a second chance? Absolutely. Maybe sometimes people deserve third or fourth chances, but they have to demonstrate behavior that warrants that chance. And we're only going to know what Logan Paul's true intentions are in the long term. Okay, fine. So he wins this freaking fight with KSI. He comes out with a really cool documentary. He cries in the documentary, whatever. That still doesn't show that he is a man that wants to be a leader and assume a leadership position for youth and YouTube as a community itself. So I am just going to now turn to the comment section in my audience. We're only going to keep this broadcast about 10 minutes long. If I missed any points, please bring them up. But I mean, the interview itself was like the same old, same old. Okay, we're going to talk about the suicide forest. We're going to talk about how Logan Paul was culturally insensitive in Japan. We're going to talk about him tasing a dead rat. We're going to talk about how he was insensitive in Juvenile. We're going to talk about how he reacted inappropriately in the suicide forest. We've all heard this stuff a million times before. And Logan Paul said that he believes that he is insensitive, but not culturally insensitive. Most people beg to disagree because he purposely created a really offensive caricature of a part of Japanese culture, which is Pokemon, and then harassed people on the street and damaged or at least interfered with a vehicle that was not his. And it seems like he really wants approval at his core, and he wants people to know that he's not a bad guy, that he's just a creator who got caught up in the whirlwind of daily, extremely effective content creation, and he was thinking about what he could make that was effective as opposed to making what was kind. Okay, fine. I don't doubt that. However, The fight that you're doing with KSI does not change that narrative at all, for the reasons I stated earlier in this broadcast. And you should maybe consider doing some other things with your channel. Change the series that you're doing. Change your approach. So turning to the audience. Energy says hello. Mr. Field says hi. Thomas says hi. Hook says, bro, you're acting like you don't understand what a mistake is. You do make mistakes. Oh yeah, I don't doubt that. Bro, you really speak like you took the mistake really personal. It isn't a big deal. Everyone says wrong things in the wrong moments. I didn't take any of the Logan Paul controversy personal. I actually had come to Logan Paul's defense prior to the Japanese suicide forest controversy, because I think there is still some degree of hating Logan Paul for the sake of hating Logan Paul just because he's successful, not because he deserves this exaggerated hate. I do still think that certain reactions to all of his controversies were overblown. I mean, if you're tasing a dead animal, it's disgusting and weird, but you're not killing a live animal. So don't act like he killed a rat. He tased something that was already dead, for instance. But it just shows that he's a big juvenile dolt, if anything. So yeah, I previously, prior to the Japanese suicide forest vlog, which I don't agree with, and I think he was being very opportunistic, as I said, he was basically using sensationalism to get more views, more power, more subscribers, more clout, more attention, because attention is power on the internet. Yeah, I see the side still that there's this over emotional scapegoating of Paul, but he does deserve certain amounts of criticism, and that's what I'm doing today. I'm criticizing him. I'm not having a huge emotional reaction to it. It's just he is a YouTube juggernaut. He is a significant character in our community. He has probably one of the most recognizable names out of any YouTuber at present, because he's had so much more press than anyone else. Even Jenna Marbles. If I was to go out into the street in Montreal and ask people, hey, what did you think of Jenna Marbles' last video? They'd be like, trust me, adults over the age of, I'd say about 30, 35, they'd be like, who? Versus, oh, did you hear about that YouTuber, Logan Paul, who found a dead body in the suicide forest, who's negatively impacting children with his irresponsible and dangerous acts? Guaranteed there'd be more people to be like, oh yeah, I heard about that guy. I heard about that jerk. I tell my kids not to watch him. So that's why I tend to things like this. And I've made so many videos about Logan Paul up until now that I was like, okay, I have to do something with this. And I actually previously parodied Casey Neistat's interview with Robert Sinkle, the head of business at YouTube. It was a project that took me over a week, because I re-edited the video and made it look like I was interviewing Robert Sinkle. So now I am questioning myself as to whether or not I might do the same thing with the Logan Paul interview and do some satire, but that's a separate video from this. I wanted to just at least go live today and start the discussion, because I know everyone's going to want to be talking about it. And actually, I should go to the comment section beneath Casey's video and read some of those comments out. We are going past 10 minutes. I'm going to go back to what you guys are saying. So Farzan says, hello. Mr. Field says, Jake and Paul are bullies. Without a target, they are lost. I think they're just opportunistic. I don't think they're bullies, because KSI, you could argue he's a bully. You could argue Keemstar's a bully. They're just competing in a very competitive industry in really obnoxious ways. So Ephraim says hi. Daniel says, how's Max feeling? I don't want to address that in this particular broadcast, but it's been a very difficult week for me. So Big Bub says, you pose polar opposites are his only option. Be a villain or a saint, when in reality, most people aren't like that. That's a good point. He can change without going to the extreme either way. He can, but then he can't frame it as a redemption story. I mean, I guess he could if all of a sudden it's Logan Paul builds cabins. That's kind of in the middle, right? Who are you going to offend building cabins? Maybe people who don't want you to cut down trees, certain environmentalists, but other than that, it's like, oh, cabin making. Yeah, he doesn't have to be a voice for the youth, but the truth of the matter is his audience is largely young people. So how do you positively entertain and influence young people as a good person. Thank you, Stephen, for the donation. But Big Bub says, but yes, there's an element of violence in boxing, but boxing is way more than just a violent sport. Well, that's what I just said. It's a mental game. It is an art. It does require a lot of physical prowess and training. I respect the art of boxing. However, turning that into the axis of your redemption story is a little weird. There's a little bit of not a conflict of interest, but there's a little bit of a contradiction in saying that you're going to be redeemed through a sporting event, which is inherently violent, and let go of your previous insensitive ways. You know, what proves to everyone you're super strong. It's such an act of ego. It's not an act of emotion. And what he needs to redeem himself is an act of emotion, positive emotion. Logan Paul vlogs message retracted. Is that really Logan Paul? I highly doubt it. So let's read some comments from the video itself. By the way, my hair is like Tinkerbell today. If you follow me on other platforms, you might see me look like Tinkerbell. That has nothing to do with anything. Okay, so let's go to Casey Neistat. And Casey, by the way, I wanted to say, did a very good job of interviewing Logan Paul. He asked most of the questions that needed to be asked. He wasn't a pushover. He was fair and impartial. He was a very good journalist. I think this is one of the best interviews, Casey, if you're watching, that Casey's actually ever done. Cinkel, he went a little easy on Cinkel, but then for the guy from YouTube, the head of YouTube business. But then again, I understand, because going too hard on YouTube would result in them not endorsing him. And they probably have a PR person. I've met one of their PR people before that would prohibit him asking certain things and hardlining on certain issues. So, but I feel like with Logan Paul, he was just like, no bullshit. Like, dude, like, I know you say you had the intent of raising awareness and not being insensitive when you encountered the dead body in the suicide forest, but you look like you were happy. You look like you made light of the situation, and then you didn't even choose to edit it differently. The road to hell is paved with good, or is paved with intent and your perception of your own intent. The reality is you have to look at what the output is, because nobody can understand the intent that's going on in your mind if your physical actions look in conflict with what you claim your intent to be. All they can go on is the video evidence. So if you're a video creator, you have to provide the public with good video choices and good storytelling choices, or they are going to conclude that you are an insensitive jerk, because all you showed them was that you were an insensitive jerk. And you should approach delicate human scenarios with a degree of a very intense degree of compassion, understanding, and sensitivity. So Logan Paul says, what up? Huge fight going on. What do you mean? So BTR says, do you think Logan Paul's trying to go for a Rocky Balboa type of angle? So that's, you know, what's his name? That's the film Rocky with Sylvester Stallone. So yes, you know, downtrodden guy, and the way he, you know, nobody thinks he's ever going to win, and then he emerges victorious. Yes, actually, I do. That crossed my mind today. But again, what does that have to do with making up for being basically a 13-year-old delinquent child in a 23-year-old man's body? It's like, what does that, how does him winning a boxing match better the community? How does it send a good message to children that they should enroll in boxing to solve their problems, that they should have be a part of a major sporting event to make up for the wrong things that they've done? That doesn't make any sense to me. Like I said, his redemption has to be emotional, not physical, and not due to something that is just merely spectacle. Women will seldom understand boxing. I understand it, but it's okay. Maybe it'll resolve the conflict between KSI and Logan. But like I just said, it's not going to redeem his career. It's not going to redeem his public image. It's not going to make everyone think that he's a better man just because he trained to be in a boxing match for 8 months. He did say when in his interview that, oh, well, it's because I want to show everyone that you can get punched in the face and then still make a comeback. He wants to show everyone that he has the humility to be beaten publicly. It's kind of weird, though. So what team are you on, Logan or KSI? Neither. I think it's just a silly sporting event. I think, I mean, they're going to make a lot of money off of it. It was smart that they did it. No YouTubers have done an event like that before. Oh, well, actually, no, that's not true. There was the fight between that other British guy and KSI. I forgot about that. But I mean, it's the second instance of it, and it's elevating YouTubers or removing YouTubers from just doing interesting things on the platform itself and turning them into more like comprehensive stars that are multi-platform and not just YouTubers stuck in our little, screen. So intent does matter. Yeah, well, it does matter. I agree with that. But when you make a video, you have to be conscious that the only thing people are going to really understand is what they see, not what your intent was, unless they're doing a critical analysis. But most people's brains don't function that way. Most people don't turn on their analyst mind and see the big picture when they watch a video. They just go, oh my God, these kids are laughing after they just saw a corpse. They just filmed a corpse. Now they're using that corpse for their own financial and personal and fame gain, in a way that is disrespectful of the dead man, his family, and potentially traumatizing to the very young audience that is watching. Yeah, the English guy was Joe Weller. Thank you. Okay, so let me read some of the comments beneath the Casey Neistat interview. So someone said, VFX Todd said, not good enough. This whole doing things to the extreme is a sign of narcissistic thinking. You can't categorize insensitivity by saying there's a difference between cultural insensitivity and insensitivity. There's no difference. It's a rationalization of bad behavior, pure and simple. Then taking a claim for being motivational is self-serving. I'm not saying that he hasn't been. Additionally, I've watched some of his videos, and mostly what I saw was a bunch of people doing stupid shit and laughing at themselves as if what they were doing was funny because they were laughing. It's not, and it isn't funny. Logan Paul is a typical millennial, which involves the tendency to rationalize their actions and an inherent narcissism. Well, I'll argue that most people are inherently self-serving, but then it's up to their moral education or their conscience to make them think about not just themselves, but other people. I mean, I do believe certain degrees of altruism, wanting to do good for others without payback, is inherent in most human beings that are not sociopathic. But I mean, everybody thinks about their own life first, right? Who are we kidding? However, not everyone just then behaves in entirely self-serving ways, such as the way Logan Paul does on video in front of such a huge number of people. Why is Logan Paul wearing his Maverick merch, says Nathaniel Drew. How does he expect people to take this seriously? Yeah, well, I mean, that's a good point, in so much as Logan Paul is still selling, even when he claims he's sorry. He's still trying to get the money from his clothing brand. Should he not sell? Well, he has the opportunity. I mean, it's a smart business move, but I mean, it's back to the narrative of he's more self-serving than he is sorry. And he's more self-serving than he will ever be about the betterment of any community. So it's like, he shouldn't even try. He should just, as long as he's not damaging other human beings, just continue to make idiotic bullshit, provided that people don't suffer. Because don't pretend that you're a bigger man than your bottom line, which is money. Money. Maybe the money is at the root of all of this. Other than Logan does love to be an entertainer. Logan does love to make people laugh, from what I understand. Truly, I think the power and money are at the root of this entire controversy. And what you have to do to get power and money, what you have to do to maintain power and money, and how your actions for power and money can take you down very dark paths if you are consistently rewarded for bad behavior. So Mr. Field says, preteens don't make good decisions. Their nag power is too strong for the American parent to properly discipline. I just think teenagers, as a mother of a teenagers have to go through a phase where they're a little bit rebellious so that they form their own identities and leave the parental household. That doesn't excuse poor teenage behavior, but it's also true that teenagers' brains aren't finished forming for until they're in their mid-20s. Like the human brain doesn't stop really developing until 25. And then beyond 25, your brain can still actually evolve. But like the largest change or shift from poor impulse control, poor wisdom, poor understanding occurs after the brain has finished forming at age 25. Are his main merch sales 12-year-olds? Probably, yes. Thomas says, what about the other people in the suicide video? Aren't they responsible too? Yes, but because they are not as popular as Logan Paul, no one's really holding them accountable. They just saw them as hangers on, and they didn't really have much screen time, right? Okay, some more comments before we wrap this up. I mean, I hope I made a few good points. If Logan, you're watching this, I think I laid it out pretty bare for you. Logan Paul's interview with the BBC, by the way, has been canceled. He was going to be interviewed, or he was interviewed by BBC One, but they decided to pull the interview, saying it was not high enough quality, which is bullshit. It kind of caved to public pressure, which I think is silly. People are saying that Logan Paul doesn't deserve a platform. Okay, maybe in some ways because he's shown poor behavior, he doesn't deserve it, but that's not what it's about when you're a journalist. It's about telling stories of events that have happened and being a little bit impartial about the people that you're relaying the news about. So I feel like that was a cop out of BBC One. And I think it's a slippery slope to start to be like, oh, well, we can't interview this person because they don't deserve it. No, if it's a story, it's a story, and it's a story that deserves to be dissected and analyzed. And that can only be through exposing the public to interviews with certain subjects or reports on said subjects. Farzan says, I don't like people when people fight each other. It's bad. Yeah, again, I've already gone through this. I don't see how it's a redemption story beyond a movie-like redemption story that he's creating, which is a fake narrative, further proving that his efforts to redeem himself are not fully sincere, because his bottom line is still money, power, and fame. And maybe creation. In fourth place. So Bobby said, Logan Paul seems as genuine and honest as a used car salesman, spoon-feeding a story to get you to lower your defenses for him to take advantage of you. 23-year-old is still a kid. No way. You're an adult now. Start acting that way. With that said, I think Casey did a good job with this interview, calling him out, keeping on track, and moving the conversation forward, and his willingness to ask follow-up questions. That's right. Very true. The Hour Man says, nobody should be shut out from interviews. I agree. The Hour Man says, free speech matters, and in the internet age, everyone has a public platform. They have the ability to use. Public opinion should not be a factor. I agree with that. Provided you're not glorifying your subject in the interview, right? This is me arguing for like an impartial approach. Can everyone hit the like button, by the way, who's here? I only see that we have 2 likes. I know there's the tendency to dislike anything about Logan Paul, but if this is a discussion that you like, please hit the like button. Because this is about the discussion. This is about the analysis. This is not about, the like button is not about whether or not you like Logan Paul. Like I noticed on Casey's vlog, it has how many dislikes? It has 21,000 dislikes, 47,000 likes. That's people disliking Logan's responses, not the quality of the interview. Because I think if you were to judge it on the basis of whether or not it was a quality interview, it absolutely was, and it deserves more likes than dislikes. But I think people sometimes hit the like or dislike button, not based on the person presenting the information, but the topic itself. Thank you for liking my video. So certain people, says Hook, want to hate just anything that they can. Well, that's what I had said before, that there was a bit of bandwagon jumping and exaggeration in terms of the dislike towards Logan Paul outside of, or backlash against Logan Paul outside of the Suicide Forest controversy and outside of him making a dumbass decision to tase a rat, and play with a corpse, which is a stupid thing to show small children who are, largely, or younger children that are largely his audience. People love to hate those who are successful because they're envious, or they don't understand what they're doing, or they don't like his show, so they're going to hate him, even though the show was never intended for them. If you're 35, you're not going to watch Logan Paul vlogs. So of course you're going to be like, what a fucking pompous, childlike jerk, when really, in a way, certain things that he does, like, oh, I'm going to skateboard, he has to do because his young audience identifies with it, not because, you know, he as a person isn't capable of more sophisticated things, or that he doesn't turn into a more average layperson once the camera is off. You have to make certain decisions as a video maker to be consistent and to target a very specific audience, or you're never going to make an impact. So unfortunately, Logan realized that his audience is younger, and so he has a tendency to behave in more juvenile ways. That said, too, there is an element of him that is a big kid trapped in a man's body, and he's a little bit immature in his choices and extreme in his choices. So, do I know who Daisy Ridley is? It sounds familiar, but I'm not sure. So Daniel says, perhaps the BBC dropped the interview because they didn't want to be liable for thousands of preteens going out and trying to box each other without safety measures. Perhaps. Oh, yes, I do know who Daisy Ridley is. Yes. Are you going to say that I look like her? So Big Bub says maybe the BBC didn't want to do the story because, like you said, they didn't consider the intent, but only worried about what the audience sees. Okay. Some more comments from the interview between Casey Neistat and Logan Paul. Oh, that's nice of you to say that I look like Ray. I'm gussied up today for my patrons on Patreon. I started to take some photos too for my Snapchat. So I was like, okay, I'm going to take a break because I wasn't really happy with what I shot. And I'm like, I'm going to talk about this live. Vedman says, he's too stupid to have a deep conversation like this. He tries to sound wise, but he said the opposite of what he means. Good questions from Casey. I don't think he's stupid. I just think that he's very simple, actually, and straightforward. He's like, I want fame. I want fortune. Therefore, I'm going to come up with an equation that I'm going to do unapologetically that nets me that effect. Do I care about whether or not my audience imitates me? No. Do I care about whether or not certain people think I'm an asshole? No. Am I really changed? Or am I just still a content creator or entertainer going through creating more narratives to sustain my platform and my popularity? Yes. You know, it's like he's not an idiot. He's just very simple, opportunistic, and greedy. I don't know. I mean, you have to be of the mentality to want adulation, power, and money to get into this business. That said about myself, like, why do I do what I do? You know, like, why do I do sexy, crazy things on my main channel? Well, because I do have fun doing it. I feel like I'm standing up for women doing things with their bodies that they're not judged for, that women are not prevented from choosing to show as much of their body as they want. But I don't think I have as big of a need as Logan Paul does for everyone constantly loving me. I don't know. I mean, I've never been in his position, so I don't fully, I can't fully unpack it all. I mean, I think I'm a creator and an artist first. I think I like to have debates, which is why I do these live streams. I don't think Logan vibes on that frequency. He's not here to be critical, thoughtful, and artistic. He's here to be effective. Like I said, for him, it's the money and the fame first, the art and the community second, third, and fourth. Our man says, George Rockwell Schmidt did a very good video on the topic of news being sensationalized 4 days ago. I'll send it to you later so you can check it out. Well, thank you. Onision 2.0. That's what you think Logan Paul is? That's interesting. So Daniel says, being an artist first basically means that you accept not everyone will like what you create. That's right. And I feel like back to Logan Paul really still wants a lot of external validation. I mean, nobody wants to be hated as intensely as he has been, to be fair. But None of his actions, wearing his merch, making a documentary, engaging in a sensational fight, indicate that that it's really about the art, that it's really about creation for creation's sake, or creation for art's sake. It's like creation for, like, why do you create Logan Paul? Like, really, you need to, like, I would love this the answer to that question. That's the question that Neistat did not ask. Why do you create Logan Paul? What's the real reason? Because like I said before, it seems like it's money and power and personal validation, which comes from the ego. And do you not see the negative side effects of that, of not having greater purpose? Like, hi, 9UW member. Oh, Farzan said somebody met him. Oh, and your friend met him. Okay, guys, we've gone longer than I thought we would. So here's a positive comment supporting Logan. Ramirez says, human beings make mistakes. We get better, improve, make life better. Just happened for millennia. Go Paul. It hasn't been long enough to see what his career trajectory is going to be. Give it 2 years. We'll see what's going on with him. 2 years, not 6 months later, and not a boxing match or a documentary later. So this is what I just said. John Redwine said, my personal belief watching this is that it's premature at this time for Logan Paul to claim he's become a better person and will be a better person. I get a sense that he still has some soul searching to do. Sorry, Logan Paul, truly, I pray that you find peace within yourself first. And Bayer says, yes, you're enabling him, Casey. The dude is wearing his own merch on this heartfelt interview. You are not monetizing the video, but this guy certainly is. Guy is a textbook narcissist. Okay, I think we're beating a dead horse at this point. Have I ever gone to meet a famous person? Yes, but fame is what it is. It just means a lot of people pay attention to you, and a lot of people know who your name is because your name appeared in the media. Unless you've done something like truly that's contributed to humanity, or you're, an immensely successful business person, Jeff Bezos or something. I mean, so you've done something that's of distinction that sets you apart from people in terms of an entertainment. It just means that you either got hired for a successful series, you have a specific talent that is rare and then was showcased. They're still human beings. They're still flawed, as we see with Logan Paul. And they're not, anybody who's famous isn't really different than any of us, right? Look at Demi Lovato. Oh, I wanted to make a video about PewDiePie. I might shut this down and make my PewDiePie video, by the way. Because he said something really insensitive, or he reposted an insensitive meme about Demi Lovato. But look at Demi Lovato. Okay, fine, she's famous. She sings. She's got a great voice. She's made great choices in terms of who her producers are and songwriters are. But she's still got a terribly horrible addiction problem that almost ended her life. So sure, she's famous, but when she's not in the recording studio or when she's not on stage, what is her quality of life? She hurts herself. So the fame is just it's almost like a descriptor, like, oh, Davison is pretty. Okay, so I'm pretty. What does that mean? How does that benefit the universe? How does it help other people? If I'm pretty, does that mean you know what's going on behind the scenes? Does it mean that I'm happy? Does it mean that I'm psychologically stable? You can't answer these questions. So it's like fame's an adjective, not something that's necessarily an ideal that everyone should aspire to. Big Bub says, having a greater purpose doesn't earn the big bucks. It's basically like being a nice guy. Well, that's not always true, because there's so many different ways that you can achieve success or be famous and still have a purpose. Like Dr. Berg on YouTube. You probably don't know who he is. He's a doctor that talks about various health conditions. He has a greater purpose, which is health education, and he's earning quite a bit of money off of his YouTube channel. So there's just a million and one ways to have purpose. I'm not saying that Logan Paul has to have purpose, but he can't ask for redemption unless he has purpose. And a purpose greater than himself and his money. I'm sorry. I'm at the end of this conversation. Well, Stan, I'm okay. I was recording something for my patrons today. I decided to take a break to discuss the Logan Paul interview with Casey Neistat. If you haven't watched it, you should. I should link to it in the video description. I didn't. It's easy to find. You just go to Casey Neistat's channel. But I basically discussed what went on during the interview. I said that Neistat handled himself well. Neistat covered all his bases. And I said that Logan Paul thinking that a boxing match is a redemption story is pure fiction and in conflict with his goal of showing everyone he's a better person. It just shows that he can get into a ring and succeed athletically. It doesn't show that he's a changed man. They can make a narrative. You can make a film out of it, like the documentary he's making, and make it look like this sad story with this final moment of success. And I beat back against the haters and showed everyone that I'm talented and I'm I'm worthy of my platform. But that's not what really the crux of this is, which is like, are you going to be a good role model or not? And are you going to do good things with your fame or not? Or are you at least not going to ask for forgiveness when you're not terribly sorry? Also, Big Bub says, I meant generally speaking, it's easier to earn the big bucks without having purpose. Well, yeah, and it's easier to earn the big bucks if you are unscrupulous and think that the end justifies the means, that you are amoral. Okay, I'm just going to fuck my way up the ladder. Okay, I'm just going to collab with this YouTuber and then trash them 6 months later because everyone hates them 6 months later, use them then and then use them again because I care about my popularity more than the person that I'm throwing under the bus, right? Oh, well, I'm just going to wear my merch to an interview where I'm talking about the ways in which I was insensitive and offensive because I'm unscrupulous, because I still want to sell my merch. I still want to rep my merch instead of showing up in a plain t-shirt like I'm wearing and say, okay, we're really here to have a heart-to-heart. 9UW member says, true that Big Bub, having principles is a huge handicap to success, not insurmountable. It makes it more difficult. Big Bub says, redemption can mean to get back to where you were from the low place you've sunk into, not necessarily to be better than where you were. I guess, no, I think redemption has an emotional angle. So T. Lee says, oh, this is very nice of you to say. Because of you, there's hope in the world. Always wish you the best of the best of the best. Well, thank you. I've had a rough week, but that's okay. Life, stuff happens, right? Okay, my friends, I've sounded off enough on this issue. Thank you for your feedback. Thank you very much for your donation, Stephen. You are the micro donator of the room. And Daniel says, it's a catch-22. I got fame and fortune doing thing A, but now I have to be responsible and you want me to do B. Now no one will watch me. Well, no, he's a way to turn the bus around. But again, he doesn't have to. He's under no obligation to. It's just karmically, it would be nice if he could. And if he chooses, though, to continue to do disruptive things, then it's going to be up to YouTube to rein him in, right? Because if he can't self-moderate and choose to be ethical, well, then it is actually up to the platform to start imposing more ethical standards, which I think they have to a certain degree. It's just, again, don't say, oh, I want you to forgive me if you continue to hurt the person that you're asking for forgiveness from. Okay, guys, thank you. My name is Davison. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe. Please don't forget to comment on this video post-broadcast. Leave me your feedback. Again, Casey, you did a great job. And Logan, make this emotional. Don't make this about a sporting event. Stop thinking about money and power. So I will see you guys later and have a great day. Bye.